joined late, we just decided the topic. We were not sure about it. Maybe 5 minutes ago. There were two topics that we discussed last week. One topic that we discussed last week, and then one that came in email. And then we just went through initial discussion before we started the session and thought we'll talk about, and this is just a trial. I'm not sure will it work or not, but there's a question that can I upgrade a customer from BC16 or BC17 worldwide version to a BC17 North America version?
So Ralph, I do have a question. I do have a question before we go any further. You say it's about an upgrade. You could definitely install the new version, like the localized database, and then go through rapid start and import everything you need to know, you need to work with, like, you know, master data, items, customers, vendors, and GL entries into the new localized database.
That'll not be that straightforward, as in you can't do ledgers from rapid start. Okay, you can surely do masters, but you can't do ledgers.
No,
and
just import them into a journal, then post them, not just into the table.
Right. Okay, so yeah, let's give it a try. I'm not sure about this part, but let's see how it goes. But before we go through that, here is who are new in this meeting for the first time. Here is the place where you go every week on this link to get registered for the next week meeting. And this link normally gets updated after this meeting. If you don't want to register every week and want to get invited automatically, just drop your name and email in the chat, and I'll make you default attendee going forward. But before we get into this upgrade thing that we are going to talk about today, a DynamicsCon ended, and I know some of us were not able to make it there, and I have some favorite sessions which I attended, and I'll recommend these to watch to everyone who is a developer, at least a developer. I have watched mostly development sessions. So the first one was about the AI language coding for performance from Thomas. Do watch it. It talks about how you should code to make sure that your code is performance optimized for Business Central. And some of them seems very, basic info, but I know for a fact that sometimes we kind of skip those things when we start doing our development in Business Central. And most of them we might have talked about in these sessions, but it will be a good revision to watch and understand once these sessions become available on YouTube, which may be by end of next week or something like that. The second one, I don't know who missed it, but it was a good session for people who have teams. And I'm saying teams in terms of who work with the team-based structure. And Waldo talked about how he manages his Business Central development team more or less in his company. So it's a good topic if you work in a team. He talks about how they follow a specific design pattern. Everybody should be following the same design pattern within the organization. How they build their pertinent extensions, and how they build their in-house, more or less, app, which they use with their customers. So it's a very good session to talk about how typically a Business Central team should operate in this domain. Surely watch this. And then if you haven't seen this session, then it's okay as of now, but it'll be a problem if you have SaaS customers going forward. If you haven't noticed, Microsoft is deprecating the username password or username web service key authentication in Business Central SaaS. And all these API calls or any kind of integration that you're doing with your Business Central Online will only happen with OAuth. Now, I know it's changing. I know it's changing super fast. But if you have customers on SaaS, or if you are trying to build solutions for your customers on SaaS, which are not specific to Business Central, but they are related to Business Central integrations, then we all need to understand how OAuth works. And AJ has done a great job explaining the whole process. There's a demo that he showed on the session. So at least these three, I would prefer that you go and watch them once these recordings are available. There are other great sessions also. You can pick and choose, but these are the three where I surely learned something new in Dynamics Cloud. Okay, so let's come back to the topic that we are going to talk about today. Let me see. Okay, so the topic was around that I have a customer who is currently using Business Central 17, and he is using Business Central 17 worldwide version, and in this case it is 17.4, and they want to upgrade to Business Central 18, but North America, not everyone. As I said in the beginning, this might be a complete trial and it might completely fail, but let's give it a try and see how it goes. So let me see where my PowerShell script is. I have already created it, but before I go into that, the article that talks about all these steps is this, and if needed I'll put it in the recording later or in the chat if you guys need it. It talks about, and be very clear because the person who sent me this question was referring to article this, and this is a different thing, which is just the platform update, and this is the whole application and data upgrade. So whenever you talk about upgrades, it's all data upgrade and the application upgrade. So this is from version 15, 16, and 17, with an assumption that you haven't modified Microsoft-based app. All these are the steps, and what I'll do is I'll just quickly read it through and I'll show you the PowerShell that I've written. It majorly talks about make sure that you install version 18, which is done in my case. If you haven't noticed, let me know in chat and we'll talk about this in some other week. But Microsoft have decided to not use permission as data, which means that in NAV and till Business Central 17, all the permissions that we were using, our customers were using, were part of a table called permission set and permission. And it was actually a data that was available in the system. Starting version 18, Microsoft have given an option only for on-prem that they can work with permission as data for a year or so. But eventually in version 20, permission as data will not be available. So that can be a topic that we can talk about, how you upgrade those. We'll park it for now because it's an on-prem demo that we are seeing. Then it says prepare the existing database, which means Business Central 17 in our case. Take a backup of your database. I'm using a Cronus environment, so there is no data encryption, but if you have, you disable that encryption. You need to uninstall all extension from your current version, which is Business Central 17 in our case. And these are the steps that are here. Once you have done that, then you also need to unpublish all symbols. From Microsoft, there are two symbol sets that are available, which is a system symbol, and then there is a test symbol, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So it says unpublish all those symbols. If you are using multi-tenancy, then you have to dismount the tenant, which I'm not using, and then you have to stop the service of Business Central 17. And these are only these 7 steps which you have to do in your older version of your database. So let's open my PowerShell. Okay. Okay. So here is the PowerShell command, which is doing all those 7 things. First, I'm trying to import the module for Business Central 17. It's imported. With this, I got some commands here. that will be used during the upgrade process. Then before I uninstall those, and I wanted to emphasize on this, that uninstall doesn't remove your app. It's just make it inactive, more or less. Okay, so don't worry about the data when you're trying to uninstall an app. But if I show you right now how many apps are there on this database, you can see all these apps. Let me do a quick view, which is all these apps are available in the system right now, in this database or tenant. There is another kind of apps which are available in your system, which you access by clicking on this menu called symbols only. These apps are, if you have worked on mixed mode in Business Central 14, these are behind the scene apps. And now there is only one app. Earlier there used to be two. And this one is a system app from Microsoft. It's just a set of symbols for system objects in your database. So they are treated differently as a normal app. The symbol only apps are not visible in your extension management window when you open it. So if I go here into my extension management, I'll see everything other than the system app. This is a different one. This is not the system, this is system application. So that's why the step says first uninstall all apps which are normal apps, which is our output from this, and then also unpublish all the apps which are of type symbols, symbol only, and then stop the service. Okay, let's do this. Because there is a dependency to one of the app that is trying to uninstall, it's giving me a warning. I say yes, more. Okay, so all these apps have been uninstalled and the service has been stopped because it's already removed, because I'm pretty sure it tried to remove the system application first, which had dependency, so it removed everything. But right now there are no apps available in Business Central 17 and it's done. And if I look on my Business Central 17 service, it will be stopped right now. Okay. Now as this is stopped, now we'll have to start our part 2 of the upgrade. So let's quickly look at that. Now the part 2 starts from this. Convert your application database to version 18, where there is a PowerShell command to run this. Then update your service parameters. That means set the database name, set the server name, which it is doing here, the database name, task scheduler, disabling the task scheduler, and restarting the service. Then it needs a Business Central 18 license that you import here, and then, as we always do, after importing license, we restart the service. So this is kind of warm up for the upgrade steps. So I have already created this, but because I'm using PowerShell and I've already loaded 170 symbols, I'll have to close this. Open this again. And this time load my part 2, which is this. And if it is not visible or smaller, let me know. I can zoom this in at any point. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm only going to run this part right now, which is convert my database to version 18. And the database details are like this. This is on my local server, the database server, and the database name is demo database 170W1. And then on my PC 180 service, which is this service, set following parameters. Set the database name like this. If you also have to set the server, you can add that command here. And I'm changing use permission set from extension as false because I still want to rely on permission as data. Disabling my task scheduler and then restarting my service tier. And importing my license and then again restarting my service. If there are questions, guys, stop me at any point. Okay. So I'll run this set. It may ask you some questions here. Because I'm trying to convert the database, it says if you convert the database, you will not be able to open this database with the older version of Business Central, which is Business Central 17. And Microsoft strongly recommends you to take a backup before conversion. And if you are converting it, it will remove any kind of modification that you might have done on the system table, which will never be the case in Business Central Word because you cannot extend system tables. So this might be a note from the past or legacy. And then it says, do you want to continue? Let's do yes. So now this PowerShell have converted this database. That's why this message pops up. Now it started setting these 3 settings and then started the service, imported the license, and then also restarted the service. So now if I go back to my service management, the service BC180 should be running and the database in this should be BC170W1. Yes. All right. Let's move ahead. Now what it says. Now it says that you need to publish the extension for the version that you are going to. And the order of these extensions, at least for the Microsoft extension, is very important. And I'm pretty sure we have talked about it in the past, that why there are 3 different apps and how they are related or dependent on each other. So make sure that you follow these steps as it is. So the first thing that it says that you have to publish the new system application. Now the system application is the application which stores your system objects, your 2 million series objects, all code units in 2 million and your tables and all. Then it says publish the Microsoft base app, and I'll come to this, and then it says publish the Microsoft application. It'll take some time, the base app, and in the meantime, if there are questions, we can talk about those, or otherwise I can give you a brief summary of it. So I've written a backup here. Let me just quickly take it back about the database in the meantime, so that if something goes bad, because I'm hoping anything that will go bad will go here. Otherwise, everything will be okay. If you notice, backup, all the files that I'm referring to are coming from the US DVD at this point. So these apps which I'm trying to publish are actually from North America or US, not from the W1 version from where they are coming from. Okay, let's move one back up. Okay, that's done behind the scene. So now when I publish this, this is the first app that you publish, which is the Microsoft System Application. And how do you find it? You actually go into the product DVD to find that path. In every version of Business Central, you will see this path inside the product DVD. There is an application folder. And then the first app that you need is your system application, which is here. The next app that you need is base app. And the third app that you need is application. And these 3 are minimum that you need to install during an upgrade, or if you are setting up a new blank environment for Business Central. These are the 3 bare minimum apps. Inside all these folders, there will be the app file and the source code of this app file. This is available from Microsoft. The app file, the app file and the source of that app file. In the same way, also for the application, the app file and the source code. Any questions? Okay. So now I'll go and publish this app, which is a system app. It should not take much time because there are very few objects references in this app, which is all objects which are more or less common to all environment. This one is a big app, the base app. With this app, everything. Let's publish this. Any questions while this is happening? Because the base app publishing takes some time.
Well, there is Balaji, so I'm looking to ask a question.
Hey, Balaji.
Yeah, hi, Saurabh. Good evening. So I have a question. Is it that when we unpublish the apps, will the data which is there in the database, which is where we are using the Microsoft apps, so will it be deleted or it would be still there in the database, the 17 version database?
So the data only gets deleted when you run after unpublish. If you run, and I'm only talking on-prem, when you do an unpublish and then you run a sync with schema mode clean. Until unless you run a sync with the schema mode clean, the data will remain there, even if you unpublish the app. Or in Business Central SaaS versions, when you try to unpublish an app, there is a Boolean which says delete related data also. Or sorry, there's some option. Let's go there.
It confirms whether you want to keep the data or just delete it.
Yeah. So when you try to this, okay, let me try this. Install. There's this delete extension data. So if you do it from the front end, then this is the option. If you do it from PowerShell, as we are doing during the upgrade, until unless you run a clean mode sync, it doesn't delete your data. Okay. So let me publish this and let me show you what happens when I publish these three. If I do a get nav app info right now, there will be 2 apps with base app, 2 apps with system application, and 2 apps with Microsoft application. Because I have just published these, I haven't installed these at this point, right? When I have info, server instance PC, and out. Okay. So if you look at this list, you will see that there is a base application this, and then there is where is the other base application? Here. So let me short it by name. So if you see, there are 2 base apps right now. The 17.4 ones have the data right now. Whatever the data is right now on 17.4. To move the data from the 17.4 to 18.4, you actually run a step, which is data upgrade step for each app. And the rule remains same for apps. Either it's a Microsoft app or an ISV app or your pertinent extension. When you have to move the data from one extension to other extension, that actually happens with one step, which is the upgrade, and we'll see that. So right now what we have done, we have just published the app for the new version 18.4, 18.4, and then there will be one more 18.4, which is this. Now this is just published. It is not yet installed. It is not yet synchronized with the environment. And I'm hoping it gets synchronized because that's the only step where it should fail, more or less. So now let's go back to that article. Once you have published all these three apps, these are minimum. If you have other apps, then you do it like this, which is the same. If you have to do sales and inventory forecast app from Microsoft or any other app, you can repeat this step for all the apps if you are planning to upgrade. If you have third-party apps, then you also have to do this for third-party apps, like pertinent extension or an ISV extension. Then you come to the synchronized tenant. I missed it. I skipped this step because I'm on a single tenant, but if somebody is on multi-tenant, will also have to run this step. Then you run the sync nav tenant. Now, let's go ahead and start running this. Now the sync is completed because everything was more or less settled. There was nothing changed. Now, what are the next set of command, if you see, is synchronize the at least 3 Microsoft apps. If you have other apps, you will also synchronize them. And these are the 3 apps which you just published a step above here. So if you have other apps, you also run the synchronize for those apps. Now sync is a step where it validates that everything that is the difference between these 2 apps, are they upgradable or is there a destructive change? So if we have any problems, they will happen at this point in this scenario. So now it's checking for any data loss that might have happened if you are doing this in. And it is just trying to validate that. It is not running that step. It's just trying to synchronize your new app, and that we specify based on version, because now I have 2 system application, 2 base application, and 2 application. So in this case, I also have to do this thing, which is specifying the version, and it failed, which is I was not expecting. What it says table VAT amount line, changing field for the key is not allowed. Previous list is VAT identifier, VAT calculation type, tax group, use tax positive, and the new list is this. So that means there is a change between a W1 and a North America, which I thought would not be a destructive change, but it seems. And how we
have been added.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that's what my curiosity was, to figure out, is that even possible or not. But let's quickly have a look. This is base app source for North America.
So are you going to publish all the updates, changes within W1 as an extension? This would take ages.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to see and maybe I'm just trying to explain what happened. What's happening over here.
Right. Okay.
So the table is VAT amount line. Okay. So let's search for VAT amount line. Okay. Okay. Maybe it's a slower way. Let me see that. Okay. Can I go into this table? Okay. Definition. Okay. VAT standard VAT amount line. Okay. So the primary key of the VAT account amount line is this on the North America version. Now let's quickly go ahead and open the source code for the W1. Let me find where I placed it. Okay. Software BC17W1. I might have to extract this, but let me see. Okay. where I kept it, PC 17.4 W1. Okay, let me open this, go into application, base app, and just copy this file out. Okay, and let me place it. Extract it here. Okay, so this is for W1. So let me open my VS Code for this. Okay. Yes, and then the table is where which is interesting. That also means that whatever our assumptions as the nav people, more or less, people who are coming from NAV, that has been changed because in NAV, all the localized version, either it's India localization or North America localization or any other localization for that matter, was kind of forked from W1. So the first version that was released for NAV was always W1. And now that seems it's not the case because there is difference in destructive difference. As there used to be additive changes, which makes sense. But I never thought that there would be destructive changes on this. But okay, let's quickly have a look on this. Okay, okay. So type tax group code, use tax and positive. So for North America, they have actually added a field in the middle of the key, which is interesting. But that seems correct because this is a localization related feature and it will require to place that key in the middle.
It's Saurabh, if I may, maybe it's the US localization that is too far from the W1. Because if you take as an example Denmark localization, then things would be smoother. You know, back in NAV 2018, Denmark was the first country where, say, all localizations in Seaside were changed into extensions. So going from W1 to Denmark is just a piece of cake, flying colors, right? When it comes to US, Spain, you name it, Australia, India, things get tricky. Pointing case is what's going on here. You can see that the keys have been updated.
Right. Let me check, do I have a mode? And the mode is, oh, this is interesting. I don't know what the development does. I know about the clean, I know about the add, I know about
just try, you know, force sync, just force it.
That will delete the data if there is data. Right, right. I'll never know what changes were forced because in NAV Word, in the sync nav tenant, like if you see here, there were options of check only.
Yeah.
Now the check only used to show me all the tables that will get that have problems while trying to synchronize this change or this new app, right? But here it seems add clean. Add is a default mode. Clean means you are removing it.
But it would be adding them as an extension, I reckon.
Sorry?
It would be adding the changes and as an extension.
Yeah. So it's trying to tell you that try to sync this app, which is the new version of app, with a mode add. By default is the add. Add means that I'm trying to replace this extension with with the newer one later on. I'm just trying to see that whatever the tables that I have in the system right now, are they aligned with this new app that you're trying to publish? So there is already a table with VAT amount line in the system, right? Which is available in the SQL server. So if I am able to open my SQL server, which I can, if I look at this table VAT amount line, let me try to filter this if I can. If I look at this, this is the table, right? Now this table already exists, and this is a 17.4 W1 table. It have a key which we just saw in the 17.4, and this key defines what the primary key of this table is, which is these fields. Now when you do a sync, system checks the existing table schema, which is this schema, and the new schema which is coming with this app. And are there any destructive changes in the new schema? And if there are destructive changes, then it ends up with an error message like this. If everything which is changed is an additive change, then that table is allowed and move forward in the synchronized process. That is what the sync is doing. It is just comparing your new objects that you are bringing with this app with the existing tables. It's more or less tables, not all objects, but just tables. And are there any destructive changes or not? So I'm not sure, but as we have time, let me play with this option, what it does, the development one. And I don't know what it does. Let's see otherwise what this actually does. And guys, if you have anyone else have any questions, please ask those. We normally don't talk about upgrades.
If there is a destructive change, then we use the upgrade code unit procedure to handle the data. Is it?
You can't do it in the Business Central world now. It's only the upgrade code units are written by Microsoft, which are part of the base app. Okay, so when you look on the base app in the product like this one, there will be a folder called upgrade. And you cannot modify that because it is part of the package. It's not something that we can modify. And for some reason, I don't see the, oh, here it is, okay. So if you look at it, there will be a folder called upgrade, which will have the upgrade routine for Microsoft app. So you can't change this, it will be a Microsoft thing. So this code, these code units are being checked and referred while this is happening, while the sync is happening. All these subtype upgrade code units are referred during the sync operation.
Okay.
But you cannot change it because we are not Microsoft. We don't own that app. So it says specify the data schema of the tenant is synchronized with the target logic of the default values add. It doesn't talk more about it. We want to try with dev and let's see what happens. Okay. Let me see if I find something on MSDN about this. Tools mode ticket access ticket mode clean is just to remove everything. Example uses mode. Then you want to remove the schema created. Okay. I should check development in that case. Okay. Let me read this through. So this is new for me also. This mode acts similar to add, except it is indented for use during development. It enables you to sync the same version of app that is already published, eliminating the need of increase the version. However, to run this mode, only one version of app can be currently published. Okay, so this is not allowed. This is for something else. If you are trying to publish the same app, and there's, as it says, there should only be one version of app. We already have two versions of app. So the only thing that if I want to move ahead from this step is to do a forcing, which is, I'm not going to suggest you here that you ever do a forcing. That'll be a wrong message if I do it here. So yeah, if I do forcing, then I'll be able to run all these steps. But you should not be doing it. That's a completely wrong approach to look from an upgrade perspective. That's completely wrong. So we'll just go through the article. So then it says once you have run the sync tenant. So if you are doing from, let's say, W1 to W1, or from Denmark to Denmark, or from North America to North America, then you will not end up with an error message like this, which I did. It'll go pretty smooth at this point. Once this happens, then you run one simple step to run data upgrade for all these apps, the three apps that we have, which are these. When you run the start nav data upgrade, what it does, it also installs the new version of the app automatically. So you don't have to separately go and install the new versions of app. They will get automatically installed when you run the start nav app data upgrade, and the order will remain same for these three apps. These are the minimum three apps that you need to upgrade. Rest, it's up to you which one you want to upgrade or not. So if you read it, it only talks about it, that it automatically installs the app and all. Then if you have new third-party extension, then you can install. Then there is a step to update the control add-in, which lives behind the scene, and you don't see them in front end. But here is this simple PowerShell query, which you can just copy paste, change the service name here, and run this whole set in one. Then it talks about updating your permission sets. And then this is the one major step which people forgot to run most of the time, which is change the application version. And let me walk you through about it, because it's so important that it can cause problems, not from the execution side, but from the confusion to other team members that are in your team. So when you go to help and support, you see this version, which is platform, this version, application, this version, and then the US, which is the localization and the major bit. Every version, including cumulative update, comes up with two unique numbers. One is the platform, which is your executable versions, and one is your application version, which is your base app or your apps version of that particular cumulative update and all. You need to update this, otherwise it will get confused, because behind the scene there is a number which gets stored against your database, which you can get from get nav app. What is that? You're trying to set application version. So you can do a get application. Get that application, and it needs a server instance, let's say BC180. So if you see right now, the version that's stored behind the scene for this database, it says application version 17.4, 21491, 21531, and the application family is W1, which is it is sourced from W1. So you'll never change the application family. We just learned that you can't do an upgrade from W1 to North America. But the application version is what's visible in your help and support page of your client. So make sure when you're upgrading, don't, because people end up, I have seen people ending their upgrade at this point. They don't move after step 10. They say, okay, the application is running, I can access the client, everything looks okay. There's no point of going ahead. But all these steps as they are defined are important, and there is a reasoning behind every step. because this version is what you will be referring in the future to find out in which version of the product they are in, right? And if you don't know how to find that out, this is referring to a wrong article, which is for BC15. But let's take that any of the cumulative update of BC15. Here you see the application and the platform. This is the only place where you can see the application and the platform version of the cumulative update where you are upgrading that customer to. So if you are going 15.16, this will be your application build. If you are going to 15.15, then the application build is different. So every release, either major or minor, gets a unique application build from Microsoft, and also the platform build. But platform build is defined based on what you have installed in the customer server. So you can't majorly change it. But the application version is specific to the code, so you should make sure that you update it using this code. And after updating this, there is a sync step, and then there is a data upgrade step. So don't stop at step number 10, which I have seen most of the people do. Complete the process till here. And then at the end, you also enable the task scheduler. If there are keys which you disabled in the beginning, then you need to re-import those encryption keys and all, and things like that. Does that make sense, guys?
It does, yes.
Okay, sorry, as in I was curious about it, and that's why I guess I wanted to do it. And I learned that it's not possible.
Say so. Bottom line, this would require a new implementation, isn't it?
Yeah, as I didn't want to try force because it's getting recorded and I'm going to put it on YouTube, and I don't want people to go ahead and start changing that statement more or less. But the other way around would be that I will have to figure out what changes happened, and that might be one-time activity to compare W1 and North America.
Yeah.
Just the tables. And then anywhere where I find a destructive change, I just need to verify, are they using that table? That means, is there data in that table in any of the companies? And if not, then maybe I can run the force.
But you would agree, it's not just about new fields that have been added or new indexes. It could be a new algorithm for the bank reconciliation. It's not just restricted to fields. You would just bundle everything into an extension and think that you've got it all figured out. It's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm. Because let's understand it, Sam. So during the upgrade or during the whole process that we are going through, the only part which varies is the data, right? Yeah. The only thing that will change, that's gonna cause problem, is the data.
Yeah.
And when I talk about data, it means it only impacts the tables.
Mm-hmm.
So if tables are same, or if tables don't have a destructive change, then let's assume if I'm able to synchronize this change, and then I run the data upgrade, that means all my code segment, all my pages, all my reports, and any other kind of objects is now available from the US localization or North America localization in this case.
Because the data is maintained.
Yeah, because the data is maintained.
Yeah.
The data is still set. I agree that once they convert to North America or any other country for that matter, they might have to update some of their setups and some of their masters, because there might be new fields there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it will not have any kind of wrong impact on the data, or data will not be manipulated more or less.
Okay, this is from on-prem to an on-prem, not
right.
on-prem to cloud, right?
No, it's on-prem to on-prem. On-prem to cloud, the the replication wizard will fail that, stating that the application
intelligent cloud base.
Yeah,
extension.
that will fail. That will fail it because it checks for the application family also of your cloud and on your on-prem. And if you have, sorry.
Do you reckon it would run into the same problem as so there would be some changes so it stops?
It'll stop. It'll not even start the replication. It'll stop in the beginning because what happens when you define and configure that replication wizard?
Yeah.
There's a table behind the scene in SQL, and I'm not remembering the names, but the whole idea of that table is to check that the database are on the same localization, more or less, or location, before it starts setting up that replication, which is, so this is the table which stores the property of the database, right? Which is the super permission details are here, and then there is, okay, environment type property. I'm pretty sure I don't remember that table, but there is a table which takes
DB property, Sarah. The second table of this case.
I did check that. That doesn't seem that.
No.
But there is surely a property.
Oh, tenant property. Tenant property.
Database version. See this one. So all these tables are read and scanned before the cloud replication confirms that you can start replication. As you map it to a database, behind the scene all these processes run, and then there is a table which logs every record which has been replicated. There's an intelligent cloud table, and I've forgotten that name, which records everything. So it'll surely fail there for sure. Okay.
So bottom line, it's not possible.
It's not possible unless you are ready to spend some time in comparing all tables from W1 versus all tables of the target version where you want to go and identify the destructive changes table.
Yeah.
Because if I do a force, then it will not ask me what is the next error. It will say, I forced it, everything. And I'll not know how many tables or kind of data was deleted or changed during that process.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have much time to talk about it, but Sam, what we'll do is next week we'll talk about these things. Okay. And about these things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm also I might start this weekend, tomorrow maybe, to start writing some articles about what's changed in PC19, if I can. Because they seem
definitely give you a decent source, Sarav.
Sorry?
I could definitely give you a good article, a good website for that.
I know it. I talked to him last week.
You did, I know, right?
Yeah. But yeah. And because there are some changes, and I'm super curious to see how, not curious, but it's super fascinating that how Microsoft is moving things toward what we call them, interfaces. Okay. Now, like this small thing where the posting preview type is standard or extended, it actually seems to be moved to an interface. Which means that now I have a possibility to define one of my own implementation of that interface and say that the posting preview will be visible in my way. Right? And I'm pretty sure the reason behind it is that there are some resellers and partners who like when the posting happens, they also post some of their new ledgers, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and also dimensions as well.
Right. So that will, with this model of moving this to interface, that gives them a flexibility to define their own posting preview, how it should look like, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, next week let's talk about those, and then we'll see how it goes.
Again, thank you, Saurav, for the time.
Thanks, man. Thank you all.
All right, I'll see you next week then.
Okay, see you then. Okay, bye all. See you next week.
Bye.